How do? It's Dave here, Amber Logistics, the UK's grumpiest courier driver. Or I feel like it sometimes. And sometimes I do have a moan. And this is just a one-off little video for a bit of a moan. I'm finding it a bit of a struggle at the moment. Now, I'm lucky today I'm on a job for my regular work supply, and yesterday I was. And those jobs were away from the courier exchange, but I'm finding that when I am trying to find work on the courier exchange, it's nigh on impossible to get a job at a reasonable price. Now, I know there's a school of thought that says backloads are done cheap and the site is essentially a backload site. But there's backloads and there's backloads, isn't there? And what I'm finding is that there's an element of companies that post on the courier exchange. Now, for want of a better word, we'll call them shippers. And my saying is, you've got different types of shippers. You've got the companies who are quite large, national, and they're all right. They're obviously after getting a keen price, but they always pay you on time. And, you know, it basically does what it says on the tin. You get the job, you do it properly, you will get your money and on time. You've got the smaller shippers, mainly perhaps people who've started perhaps like me, and then have built up their business. So they've got a real good understanding of the business. They probably started with a van of their own, got busy, got another van, put a driver in it, built it up till they got a good client base. And then they try and cover the work with their own drivers. And what work they can't cover, they'll sub out using platforms very much like the courier exchange to cover that work. And they'll try and get good drivers to cover it and pay them a reasonable price to do it if they get a good service. And then you've got what and not just me, other people say it, you've got your bedroom shippers. You've got your shippers who've never done any driving. They haven't done any driving. They don't know anything about life on the road, how much it costs to run a vehicle, the problems that you might encounter on the road, driving hours and regulations, things like that. They know nothing about that. They don't care. What they are good, they're good at selling. So they can sell to customers a transport service. They will advertise that they've got a national fleet of vehicles because they're using the courier exchange. But they don't own one themselves. No. But they sit there, this is the way I picture it. They sit there in the bedroom, on the PC or the laptop, and they take calls from people that they've sold their dream to, for work, and then they just put it on the CX. And they get it for the cheapest price they can. So they'll sell it, I don't know, I'm throwing figures out here, but let's just say typically they'll take working off the customers and charge them £1.50 a mile, and they will try and get that job covered sometimes for as little as 50 pence a mile for those drivers desperate for the work, without any conscience, without any thought whatsoever of the fact that that driver really isn't actually earning a living out of that. But that doesn't bother them. They just want it covered. They want that job covered so they can take a call and go on, and it's all about the profit. But what's happening, I'm finding now, even more so than before, that prices are getting driven so low, really low, ridiculously low, that you're not going to make any living. You are going to be packing it in before you know it. When you do this job, now I'm not a robber baron, I don't set out to get massive money for my job, but I know how much it costs to run this vehicle. I know I've got to be prepared, because I'm self-employed, I've got to cover my time off. I've got to cover the running costs on this vehicle, and I've also got to be aware that at some point in its life it's going to break down, it's going to need some major work, it's going to cost thousands potentially to do. I've had it before with another van. At some point I'm going to have to replace this van. So when the time comes that the van reaches the end of its life, I've got to be in a position that I can go out and get another, either on finance with a deposit or outright purchase, whatever my financial circumstances at the time dictate. If I drive around working for 50, 60, 70 pence a mile, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm barely going to be able to make a wage. Yet, I see work going for that amount. Now, some of these shippers, bedroom shippers as I call them, they'll even have the cheek to advertise the job and say, pays £25 for a 50-mile journey. And don't forget, folks, you're getting 25 quid for a 50-mile journey. You might say, well, it's just going to take an hour. £25 an hour is not, but no, it isn't. It's absolutely hideously crap. Because a 50-mile job is not going to take you an hour. You've got to get to that job, first of all. So you're going to travel to the job. You might be close. It might only take 15 minutes. When you get there, ultimately, you've got to introduce yourself. You've got to tell them who you are and where you're going. You've got to wait to be loaded. Once you're loaded, you've got to drive to the place, and then you've got to get unloaded. Now, we know at some places that can take a while. You may have to wait for someone else to be unloaded. You might have to wait to get in the yard. It might be a place that's difficult to find because, of course, your average bedroom shipper doesn't think to give you good instructions, doesn't even tell you really what you're going to expect him to carry. So when you get there might be more involved. There might be a lot of things to handball. All these things take your time, and your time is your money. So you do this job for 25 quid, 30 quid, even 50 quid. It's not going to take you an hour. It's going to take you a minimum of 2 hours. And then don't forget, once you've completed that job, if you haven't got another one to go to, you're going to start the process again of bidding and finding another job. So bidding at these stupidly low suicidal rates is going to cost you in the end. It's going to cost you, and you're not going to be able to stay in the industry. You need to be realistic. Factor in your wages. How much wages do you need to draw a week? Your running costs every day. I mean, I'm probably looking around £60 odd a day just running costs. That is just purchase, depreciation, insurance and everything else. Before I've even set out. You've got your fuel. Fuel's horrendously expensive. It's going to go up. It's the budget today. And they're going to put another 7 pence a litre, I believe. All of these things are your running costs. You've got to factor them in. Taking your wage out, your cost of your, if you're a member of the Courier Exchange, you've got your membership fees, which are, my renewal's coming through, and it's £1,760 a year. A year. It's a big chunk of money. Now, I know you can break it up and pay it quarterly, but I tend to pay it all at once. But it's a lot of money whichever way you pay it. Insurance for these vans now, with your goods in transit insurance and everything else, you're probably looking around the £2,500 mark, £3,000 mark, aren't you? So you can't run at stupid low prices. And the more and more people who keep bidding at these prices, the more you drive the price down and the more you're going to put yourself out of business. Now, there is a school of thought that says, well, backload price, you should take everything. But not every job that you do is a backload, is it? And let's face it, when the Courier Exchange first was formed, yes, it was a backload site. And the ideal way to work on the Courier Exchange is to have your own customers or regular work supplier and top yourself up with work off the Courier Exchange. But there's a limit to how low you can go. Because not every backload is going to take you all the way home, is it? It's going to take you slightly out of the way. Everything takes time to do. And your bedroom shipper, who hasn't got a clue about how the industry really runs, they don't care. They're quite happy for you to work below minimum wage and put yourself out of business, because it doesn't affect them, because there's always someone else around the corner willing to do it. And the more and more people who keep bidding the stupidly low prices, you're going to lose out. You're just going to crash, you're going to burn, and you're going to have wasted your time paying out for CX membership. I see on lots of social media people giving it up, and there's lots of complaints going about the Courier Exchange, and sometimes I'll moan about the Courier Exchange too. But it's not the Courier Exchange itself who set the prices, is it? It's the people who use it, the drivers who use it, and the shipping companies, if you want to call them that, who post the jobs. who sit there and wait for the cheapest price. Not every company's like that. I know people who will look at the feedback of a driver and give a reasonable price because they want their own customer to get a good service. But your bedroom shipper, they don't care. They're sat upstairs with the laptop, their Xbox next to them. Probably never even leave the house. Probably have no idea how the real world works out there. And they're quite happy to see you go under. Don't do it. If everybody, and I know I'm actually, probably speaking to myself, and people think, you moaning fat gay, why don't you shut up? But if you don't say something, you're just all going to get like sheep and just follow the herd. No one wants to rip anybody off, but you've got to make a living. You're doing this particular job to earn a living. And you're not going to earn a living. I can hear a siren somewhere. Oh, there it is. It's the ambulance behind me. You're not going to earn a living if you're out of business, are you? Think sensibly about what you're willing to do work for. And if everybody was to bid at a more reasonable price, that would become the norm. But at the moment, everybody's frightened to death. There's not much work out there, and they're taking it for stupidly low money. So that's my little rant over. I don't mean to come across as a bit of a curmudgeon, but I just see people struggling. I'm lucky. I'm in a bubble sometimes. I get work off a regular company who give me work at a reasonable price. It's not outrageously high. I'm never going to be a millionaire out of it, but I can earn a living out of it. But on those occasions where I've tried just to work on the CX because I've had no other work for a day or two, I've struggled because you just cannot compete against the suicidal drivers bidding so low. And you're going to go out, and it's a shame. But we could all earn a reasonable living if everybody reined it back a bit. Easier said than done, but I just thought I'd say my piece. And have a good day. And I hope the budget doesn't kill us today.